Welcome all. Congratulations, class of 2023. As Professor Johnson has just told you, my name is Arianne Chernock. I'm a professor of British history and Associate Dean of the Faculty for the Social Sciences in our College of Arts and Sciences. To the graduating seniors in the room, it's been an absolute pleasure to teach many of you, whether in my British history surveys, introductory methodology courses, or fashion as history seminar. Yes. I feel particularly connected to your class because we have made the COVID journey together. And I think for all of us in the room, to be in person will always have a very special resonance. To the parents, guardians, family, and friends, and to those of you who are here in spirit, you've raised and supported some inspiring human beings. I know they couldn't have done this without you, and I say this as a parent myself with a son who's about to graduate from high school. You have been instrumental to this. So I mentioned that I'm a historian of Britain. In this capacity, I think a lot about the British monarchy. And a few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be in London for King Charles III's coronation. Now, I was not in the Abbey. I do not want anyone to get the wrong impression here. I was on the soggy grounds of Hyde Park, shivering in the cold. But I was there. And while I was watching the King's coronation, I started to reflect on the similarities between that event and this one. Now, what do these two events, the coronation and your graduation, have in common? On the surface level, perhaps very little. There are no kings being crowned in this room, at least not that I'm aware of. No anointments taking place behind ornate screens, no orbs and scepters, no representatives of the Church of England, at least that I can see, and no Prince Harry looking sheepish in the third row, though the dean of our College of Fine Arts was Meghan Markle's theater professor at Northwestern. That's a BU fun fact. Both the coronation and your graduation, though, are ceremonies, and elaborate ones at that. And by ceremony, I'm thinking here of the formal definition of the term. That is a formal act or series of acts prescribed by ritual, protocol, or convention. And it's in their ceremonial aspects that we begin to see some important convergences. For starters, both ceremonies are marking moments of transition. In Charles's case, from prince to king. In yours, from undergraduate to graduate. After this weekend, I hope you will return to BU often, but your relationship to the campus will be different. These two ceremonies are also highly choreographed affairs, dependent on custom. The music, the procession, the clothing, the diplomas, or I guess in Charles's case, the coronation oath, they are all what we expect. Whether Thomas Arne's God Save the King or Edward Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance, the familiar details put us in the right mood. The gowns we're all wearing convey seriousness. Both of these ceremonies also have the weight of history behind them. King Charles was participating in a highly routinized ceremony shared by sovereigns stretching over 1,000 years. You today are participating in a ceremony that doesn't have quite as long a history, but 1877 isn't too shabby. I think we can all agree, though, that these occasions are not purely ceremonial affairs, and by this I mean ceremonial in the sense of being prescribed or ritualistic. However predetermined, scripted, and choreographed this graduation ceremony may be, it doesn't feel that way to those of us who are here today in this room. And the reason that this ceremony is personally powerful, electric even, turns on what we bring to this space, to the meanings we make at and through the ceremony. And I'm not just talking about some of your daring shoe choices or personalized caps. Some of the emotions we experience today and in the days that follow may be inspired by the script we've all been handed. I start to tear up, I have to confess, every year when I hear those first few bars of Pomp and Circumstance. But the laughter and tears are also very much products of our own personal experiences, reflections of our efforts, choices, desires, anxieties, struggles, sacrifices, hopes, hard work, and expectations. We are making meaning here too. In fact, I would argue this is where ceremony assumes a particular power. This potent interplay between the public and private, between the scripted and unscripted, between the collective and the individual, came into focus for me while reading through the manuscripts of Geneva Valentine last year. Now, hers is not a name with which I assume any of you, even my colleagues in the room, are necessarily familiar. But Geneva Valentine's is a story worth knowing. She was a Black woman born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, and was a pioneering real estate agent and entrepreneur during the 1940s and 50s. She was intent on combating redlining and other racist practices that made it challenging, if not impossible, for families like hers to accrue property. Valentine also happened to be an ardent fan of the British royal family. So when she learned that Queen Elizabeth II would be crowned in June of 1953, she knew she had to go to London for the occasion. And go she did. Supported by funds that trickled in from African American organizations across the country, she was able to spend a glorious week in London that spring. She saw the gold stagecoach right up close. She gave an interview to the BBC, and she met with other women and activists who sympathized with her causes. So why did she insist on being at Queen Elizabeth's coronation? The answer is complex. At its heart, though, Valentine made the trip not just because she wanted to see the Queen in person. She also went to make a powerful statement about her right as a Black woman to experience joy, about her right to participate in this world historical event, and about her right to prepare for the long struggle that lay ahead through the forging of international friendships and networks. Why share Geneva Valentine's story this morning? I think we have a lot to learn from her, and not just as participants in our own ceremonies, but also as historians. As historians, after all, we are often called on to interpret momentous occasions just like this one this morning. And think about it. It's events like coronations and graduations that yield so much documentation. Consider the archive that this weekend alone will produce. The diplomas, the programs, the cards, the photos, including the ones you're about to get on this very stage. Not to mention all of the emails, Snapchats, TikToks, and texts. This is a future historian's treasure trove. So how might Valentine help us navigate our roles in these ceremonies, whether in the moment or sifting through the evidence at some later point? Valentine, I think, reminds us that we can use events such as this one to recommit to, clarify, take pride in, and advance our own causes, and let our own voices be heard in the process. In other words, even in these most scripted scenes, we do not need to be passive. As historians, too, we should always remember the agency and complexity of our subjects. Be skeptical of accounts that talk about the people in some generic sense, and consider which people are being included and excluded from the narrative. So, make graduation your own. Use these stages to shine a light on your stories. Determine what it means to you in conversation with your friends and family. I want you to pause, absorb, and savor. Make space for yourself and make space for others, especially those who might appreciate the recognition and encouragement. And don't forget, too, to question some of the traditions in the process. Time-worn does not mean sacrosanct. King Charles III included a gospel choir in his coronation service. But I don't think he made that choice just because he likes the music, as he claimed. Modernizing and valuing diversity are not just things that happen. They require effort, they require arguments, and these need to come from within as much as from without. So we're looking to you, the graduating class of 2023, to use the skills that you've all developed as historians to lead this charge. Be inspired by the ceremonial aspects of this weekend, but don't be overwhelmed by them. because you all are the real meaning makers. And this is a lesson for life too. So congratulations on your graduation. Thank you for helping to create such a vibrant community at 226 Bay State Road. We will miss you. Thank you.